everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name's Allie. If you're new here, hello. If you're returning, welcome back. I appreciate you. Thanks for being here. It is none other than reading wrap-up time. We are at the end of September, which is diabolically crazy. But it's almost October, my birthday month, which means we'll probably have at some point a birthday book haul. So, in 26, which is also diabolic crazy. That is not the point of today's video. I read 8 books this month, which in the grand scheme of it is a pretty small month for me. The past few months have been like minimum 10 books, so 8 is pretty small, but looking at them all next to me, they are pretty big books, so that does make sense. We'll hop right into it. The first book I read was The Well of Ascension by Brandon Sanderson. This is the second book in the Mistborn series. I read Mistborn probably 2 or 3 months ago now. It was a book club pick for a book club I'm in, and I really liked it. So, I read the second one. This is my first kind of dip into Brandon Sanderson. I have never read any of his work, and so far I'm fairly interested in this. I think I liked the first book a little bit better. This one is a lot more like political focused than I think the first book was. But this one I think was a little bit more like political focused compared to what the first book was, but I still really liked it. I gave it 4 stars. Still very interested in seeing where it goes and finishing the series. Third book just isn't like super high up on my TBR compared to other things, but in general, if you don't know anything about the Mistborn series, I guess it's YA. It's not a smut at all. It's mainly just like a political fantasy. The magic system has to do with metals. Mistborns have the ability to burn metals in their bodies, so like copper gives you certain powers versus like iron. Some things make you super strong, some can heal you. But our main character is taken in by like the head of the resistance, discovers she's Mistborn and has all these powers and has to help them infiltrate the court. So, very political fantasy, not really like, there's a tiny little subplot of romance, but primarily is a political fantasy. So, if you're not necessarily a smart person but like fantasy, I think you'd really like this series. I enjoy it. But yeah, we read Mistborn. I then read one of my favorite books of the year. I read The Jessed Crown by Sara Hassan. This is the second book to Jessed Heir. It is a romantasy fantasy duology. I loved this. I thought it was so good. I did like the first book a little bit better. I think the first book was like a 4.25 and this was kind of just like a plain old 4. It wasn't necessarily my favorite ending. I wanted a little bit more from the ending than what I got. The ending didn't make me hate the book. Sometimes I get that way where I'll really like a series but the way it ends just ruins it for me. I didn't hate the ending, but I did want more from what I gave. But the Jessed Heir is a little bit of the classic trope of I'm the last of my heir and nobody knows that I have magic, but I do have magic and everybody finds out that I have magic, they'll kill me. Who finds out she has magic? The Crown Prince, who then recruits her for trials. So it's like got a little bit of the classic tropes, but I thought that this was written really well. I talked a lot about it on my video last week that I will link and you can go watch that if you want. I get a little bit more into detail of it. I don't want to bore you guys by talking about it again. I really enjoyed this series. It's one of my favorite little like duologies of the year. Appropriately hyped for the hype that it's getting. If you haven't read it yet, I highly suggest it. It's a pretty big book. It's a little bit intimidating, but it locks you in. I didn't put these things down at all. I ate these books up. I really enjoyed them and I highly recommend them. So, if you're looking for a little duology, I really suggest these. Then, vibe genre switch. I feel like I've said before, I have a lot of like classic and banned books that I've kind of collected, but I haven't really read them. That's kind of my biggest area of like things on a shelf that haven't been read. So I'm trying to read at least one of them a month. This month I read The Uncensored Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. His original book is Picture of Dorian Gray, and then it was reprinted as the uncensored version. The original one, they took stuff out because it was too gay. Literally just Oscar Wilde being like, I think this person is beautiful. It's not like, I was expecting it uncensored for there to be like a random sex scene. There wasn't. It's just him describing how in love he is with a man. In 1800s, they said, gay, get rid of it. So, I really enjoyed this book. If you don't know anything about Dorian Gray, or Oscar Wilde is he's dead, very much so, was sent to prison for being gay, had a whole trial and stuff. A bunch of his books, there was a random really loud beeping. I don't know what that was. I had my window open, so I hope it was something outside and not an alarm in my house, because it shouldn't be. Anywho, a lot of Oscar Wilde's work was never published because he was gay, and the government said, gross, go away. So his works didn't really even get published until he was, like, dead. And, like I said, at one point it was censored. Now we read the uncensored. Maybe spoiler alert for Dorian Gray. It's been out for fucking years. Read it. Holy shit. Old Englishy Shakespeare, but the gist of it, Basil is an artist. He gets an infatuation with Dorian Gray. Is Basil an adult and Dorian Gray very much a minor? Yes. 1800s, I don't know. That... He wasn't arrested for liking a minor, he was arrested for being gay. But in the 1800s of it all, he becomes infatuated with Dorian because he is this embodiment of youth. Basil thinks that he is obviously young, objectively beautiful, has this whole life ahead of him, and he looks at him like a very pure spirit. So he paints this portrait of Dorian, and while he's painting this portrait is basically just like manifesting youth into this painting. Basil the artist also has a kind of shady friend, Lord Henry. Lord Henry is just kind of a dick. Got a lot of bad takes on a lot of things. Women, people of other races, you know, very 1800s weird person. But he has like a weird outlook on life of like, he looks at everything like it's fake in a play, and what he does for the plot. He doesn't care how it affects people and affects other people's lives. And that rubs off on Dorian in a wrong way, and he really like corrupts Dorian's like youth and good spirit, and they both become like really bad people. Dorian grows up being a terrible person. It's a little bit like Tuck Everlasting, because Basil again meets him later in life and is like, you literally still look like you're 17, what the hell is going on? You're fucking immortal. He goes and looks at this portrait that he painted of Dorian when he was 19, and the portrait is like decrepitly aged. So, weird bit of magic, when he like manifests and thinks about Dorian's youth, he like puts it into a painting. So everything that Dorian's ever done wrong and how he's aged goes into the portrait instead of Dorian. So he is like free to live this like life of no regrets. Yeah, I don't really want to tell you how it ends, but that is the gist-ish of Dorian Gray. I liked it a lot more than I thought I would. I thought it was really interesting. I ended up giving it 4 stars because like the Old English of it all is a little bit confusing from time to time, sure, but it is a really short, quick book, and it's really interesting and not at all what I was expecting. So if you're looking for more of a classic thing, I highly suggest Oscar Wilde's work. I'm a lot more interested in reading some of his other stuff now, so maybe more of him will be on the docket. But we did read an uncensored picture of Dorian Gray, very randomly in between our weird fantasy romancy books. I then read one of my most anticipated reads of the year, and one of my favorite books that I have read all year, and one of my only 5 stars of the year. I read Catabasis by R.F. Kuang. I have a pretty sprayed-edged version. I loved this book. I have this book annotated to all heck. I'm not a big annotator. It takes me really being interested and locked into a book for me to annotate it. And I was annotating this book from page 1. Do not subscribe to the weird R.F. Kuang train of like, everything she reads feels like a textbook. This does not feel like a text. If any book feels like a textbook, it's Babel. Babel, I could agree, gives textbook vibes. Catabasis? This is just fun fantasy. The characters just happen to be professors, so do they have to talk about school stuff? Yeah, because they're professors. This is not at all a hard read. This might be a little bit of a hot take. People that were complaining about this book, saying it was like hard to read and like pretentious, are you dumb? I don't think that this book is in any way complex. I don't. Maybe that's a hot take and you can cancel me for it, but I do not think this book is hard to understand in any way. You do not need to know all the ins and outs of Dante's Inferno and like study for it. This book is genuinely funny. I laughed reading this book. The character in these books, the comedic relief she wrote in this book, incredible. I love this. This is arguably her most romantic book she's ever written. I adored this book. I think that this is honestly a really good starting place, other than maybe like a Yellowface or Poppy War, to start with R.F. Kuang. Adored this book. This book follows Alice, Peter. They are colleagues at a School for Magic College. They both have worked with, Alice works directly under, Professor Grimes. Peter works adjacent to him. Professor Grimes dies in a freak accident, and it says at the top of the book, even on like the little info jacket, whether or not it's Alice's fault that he died. At the time of this, when he dies, they were in the middle of getting like their letters of recommendations for jobs, she and Peter. So now that Grimes is dead, they're like, how the hell are we going to get our recommendation letters and get jobs? All they care about is their jobs, and arguably super relatable. I have a degree in biology. When I lock into sciences and things that interest me, I strive for nothing but perfectionism in them, and if I don't get it, I want to not be alive anymore. So being able to relate to that in characters, especially in this book, was so nice. I feel like people misunderstand how intensely academic people care about the things they care about, how willing they are to set their personal lives aside for the academic things they care about. And that's really shown in them. So she and Peter decide to go to hell, basically make their way through all of the layers in hell, which is the whole Dante's Inferno thing, but in general, 7 sins. Think no different than you would think of Kingdom of the Wicked Wrath. You're making your way through the 7 layers of hell. They are going on an adventure through hell to try and find Professor Grimes, see if they can at least bring him back to life, or if not, get his ghost to write them their letters of recommendation. And so it is their big adventure through hell. And it's also a romance, because Alice and Peter, maybe they like each other a little bit or so. This book was also so much deeper than I was expecting it to be. It's fairly short. Like, this is one of the shortest R.F. Kuang books other than maybe Yellowface. Like, it reads really quick, it's fairly short, but the amount of emotion she packed into this story is incredible. I could talk about this for hours. I see myself in this book so much, I relate to it so much. The characters in this book are genuinely funny. There are very few books that out loud make me laugh, and this is one of them. It's just incredible. Other than Jessid Air, if you read any book from this month, please give Catabasis a chance. I love it so much, and I need to move on so this video is not 45 fucking minutes long. But I love this book. Go read it, or I will hunt you down, and I will find you, not legally. I then had a little bit of a disappointment book. I didn't finish it, I didn't DNF it or anything, it was just kind of a mid 3 stars book. I read Immoral Consequences by Ivy Marie. This is like a YA dark academia paranormal. It's like the School Spirits show, they're all ghosts. This is following there's 6 different POVs in this book, a little bit excessive. There's 6 dead students who are still academic rivals dealing with their afterlife shit. Hello Atlas, you are in my frame. Ada is sitting right next to the camera being cameraman. Don't knock it over, please. I can tell you're wiggling it. Anyways, this is YA Paranormal. Paranormal has never been my bag. I feel like I've said that all the time. I'm not a big paranormal person. I'm not a big vampires, werewolves, ghosts person. So this already was not my bag. I just felt like the opposite of Catabasis, where I related to characters to this. I didn't really care about any of them. We had 6 different POVs. You're following 6 main characters, and I didn't really relate to any of them. They all felt very cliche. Like, they're like high school YA people, and it's very much, this guy Steve is a jock, this girl's the weird girl that nobody likes. They all felt very tropey, and there wasn't necessarily much character development for them. I felt like they all still kind of ended very tropey. So I don't know. I wanted more from it from what it gave me. It's kind of like a trials thing where the 6 of them are going through a trial to figure out the secret that's like locking them where they are and be able to move on. It's a unique concept. I don't know. And I just like, for as short as it is, feels like it's very rushed to have 6 different POVs of things. I don't know. I wanted more from it than what it gave. If you are like a paranormal person, you'll probably already like it more than I did. It's got pretty straight edges, so that's a plus, I guess. And the cover's shiny, but Story-wise, I didn't hate it, but it's not my favorite thing that I've ever read. I then read Vibe Switch, Saving You by Mona Kastan. This is the second book in the Maxton Hall series. I read the first book back in July or so. This is the book series that follows the Maxton Hall show on Amazon Prime. That show is all dubbed into English. It's all originally recorded in German. The books are all originally written in German. This is the first time that the books have ever been traditionally published in English. Do I like the TV show a little bit better? Yeah. Would I be obsessed with these books if I read them when I was 13? Absolutely. This is just classic, like, enemies to lovers, high school drama, rich guy, poor girl, we're from different worlds and I'm so different and nobody, but daddy, I love him. That's what this is. It's just high school drama. So the books, like me reading them at almost 26, are kind of mediocre. I think I've given them both 3 stars. I'm just kind of reading them because I want to know will most likely happen in the show, like a Summer I Turned Pretty thing. I did read the second book. In general, Maxton Hall follows Ruby and James. Ruby is poor and goes to fancy private school. James is rich, and his parents pretty much own fancy private school. And they get forced to work together, and she's like, "You're a fancy rich guy. You don't even know me." And he's like, "You're a poor, not rich girl. You probably eat trash for dinner, and I hate you." And then they fall in love. Because it's a classic, like, middle school, high school drama storybook. I like it enough to keep reading it. I think the last book comes out in like December. Season 2 comes out in December. So if it's a show you're interested in and haven't read the books and you want to know general idea of what's going to happen in season 2, you can read books 1 and 2 now before the season comes out. Probably have the 3rd book finished. They read super fast because they're YA and like 300 pages, but I did read the next Maxton Hall book. Last 2 books I read on my Kindle, which oh, it's over here. The last 2 books I read on my Kindle, because I like Dorian Gray so much, kind of wanted something in that area. I read Rebecca by, let me try not to butcher this last name, Daphne du Maurier. I'm gonna Google how to pronounce her name, because I believe it's French.
It's from literature that can be...
I don't need her life story, I want to know how to say her name.
Be said, French pronunciation, Daphne du Maurier. Daphne du Maurier.
Daphne du Maurier.
This is pronounced as Daphne du Maurier.
Du Maurier. Daphne du Maurier. But I read her book, Rebecca. This is a woman's fall to hysteria, a woman's fall to madness. The overarching theme of this book, if I'm going to explain it Dorian Gray style, this book follows our main character, who, it's again 1800s weirdness, gets married off to a rich widow man whose wife has recently passed away. So she moves in with him to his fancy, like, castle house with all of his maids and stuff, and she pretty much becomes infatuated with the dead wife. She is very insecure and immediately thinks that all the maids hate her because she's gonna change the way, like, she's just very, I don't want to change this because that's how his wife did it, and that'll make the people not like you. She just ends up dressing the way the wife does and, like, sits there and obsesses and talks to her portraits all day. She genuinely is doing everything she can to become the ex-wife, and she just goes absolutely crazy, obsessing over the ex-wife. The dead ex-wife, this person that she could never take the place of and never fill the shoes of, she becomes obsessed with, which I feel like, as a woman especially, is relatable. I think everybody has had, like, an obsession with someone's ex. That's just true. I think anybody, when you're dating someone, you're like, who have they dated? What are they like? Are they their type? Everybody has had that insecurity. Is it a security you're supposed to work through as an adult? And I have, yes. But everybody's been there. So that is kind of just like the overarching theme of that book, is just her descent into madness, obsessing over his dead wife, and trying to figure out, can she, if she ever could, replace her, and will she ever be good enough? So I gave it 4 stars. The beginning, I thought, was a little slow. Just the whole getting to know the husband. I'm like, I don't care about the husband. I want to see her go crazy. So the beginning was a little slow to me. But once you got into it and things started going a little wacko, they went wacko pretty fast. I think if the beginning portion was a little bit shorter, I would have liked it more than I did. But I didn't hate it. I did like it. If you are someone that likes more classic books and you haven't read Rebecca, I do think it's very good and you should check it out. Then last but not least, read on my Kindle, I read Manacled by Senlin Yu. I have had this downloaded on my Kindle for, I'm not kidding, like close to 2 years. And I just never read it. And with the hype of Manacled versus Alchemized, I finally decided to read it. I personally will not be linking anywhere that you can get Manacled because that's why Alchemized was published. I'd rather people buy her published work and she can, you know, make her money than, like, it's been taken off of AO3 and stuff for a reason, so I personally am not going to share where I found Manacled, but you also live on the internet. If you Google it, I'm sure you could find it super quick. When things exist on the internet, they exist on the internet forever. But I did finally read Manacled. I did really like it. I did not think that I was going to like it as much as I did. And right now I'm about halfway through Alchemized. I will not finish it this month, so it's not going to be in this month's wrap-up. But I'm about halfway through Alchemized. I guess this is where, if you have an opinion about it, feel free to let me know. If you would prefer something maybe more full reading vlog, or just an in general comparison of the two, kind of talking points thing, I want to do something about the two, but I'm trying to decide if I want to do full, like, spoilers and maybe everything reading vlog, or just, hey, I've read the two of them, here's how they compare and contrast, here's which one you should read. Maybe more of a TED Talk version of it all. So if you have more of a preference of the two, let me know. Regardless, I'll be making a video about the two of them in some form. I just haven't decided exactly where. I'm recording reading vlog type things, so if I want to do it that way, I can. But I'm also just thinking of doing maybe a talk point because they're both like 1,000-page books. And doing a reading vlog of every thought and feeling that I have about them would be probably 2-hour video. But that is not the point. I did read Manacled. Manacled specifically is a Harry Potter fanfiction. So it takes place preset in the world of Harry Potter. So if you don't know Harry Potter, you probably will not super understand the world, the magic systems, or anything without maybe Googling what they're about. I'm not a super big Harry Potter head. I still haven't finished the last book. I started reading Harry Potter for the first time this year, in the beginning of the year, and still have not finished. I have 1 book left, haven't finished it. But same magic system as Harry Potter. So in that aspect of it, there's not really much to learn. Please check trigger warnings for these books. I do not think that these books should be pushed as romance as much as they are. Romance is very much a subplot. This book focuses a lot on war and trauma, downfalls and bad sides of society. Manacled, even in the beginning specifically, is just as much inspired by The Handmaid's Tale as it is Harry Potter. And if you know anything about The Handmaid's Tale, it's not like a happy little romance. It's about abuse. And so that's what Manacled is. It's a lot about abuse. There is a lot of essay and things adjacent to that. So please do not feel like you need to be a bandwagoner and read these books. Genuinely. You're not missing some groundbreaking new thing that's never been told before. You will be fine if you do not read these books. There's enough people that are going to talk about them that you can get a gist of what's going on. If you do not like sensitive content like these, do not feel the need to read it. Do not feel like you need to bandwagon on it if it's something that genuinely makes you uncomfortable. If you do read it, that's totally good. And I did like it for what it was. But just don't feel pressured to. But I don't want to get super into it because there's not really much you can talk about it without it being kind of red flaggy trauma to talk about. But I did read it. Did I give it a solid 4-star, I think? Yeah. I just solid 4-starred this. I thought it was pretty good. Again, the ending I wanted a little bit more from. I think I wanted more justice out of it than what was given, but it's also like, that's the government. When are you ever really gonna get justice with the government? But I did read Manacled, and yeah, halfway through Alchemized, and I'll, in one way or another, let you guys know my thoughts and feelings between the two of them. That is everything that we read this month. Here is our physical. We had 2 Kindle books, but this is everything we read this month. I thought it was a pretty good reading month. A little bit, compared to other months, shorter in terms of how many books I read, but a lot of pages, a lot of big books. So I'm proud of myself for getting through this many. And yeah, if you guys read any of these books, let me know your thoughts and feelings, or your thoughts and feelings on anything. Again, if you have a preference of what kind of Manacled Alchemized type video I do, let me know. I'll probably do one regardless and have it up in the next week or so, but assuming I should be able to finish it then. I don't know. That's a me problem. Regardless, I hope you guys had a good reading month. Thank you guys for hanging out with me. Again, let me know your thoughts and feelings on any of these books or a Manacled video. And yeah, thank you guys for hanging out with me. I love and appreciate you so much. If you guys want to follow me anywhere, my stuff, as always, is linked down below. And I will see you guys next week or somewhere else on the internet. Bye.